Hi everybody, I'm Gwendolyn Sterk of Sterk Family Law, and I'm so happy to be here today with Kathy O'Hara of Kathy O'Hara and Friends Salon, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Very cool. So today we're going to talk about domestic violence.
Okay, that's a subject that not everybody wants to bring up, but
That's
we're
true.
going to talk about it.
That's
and
right.
Bring an awareness about it.
That's right. You know, a lot of times people don't understand that in life you have certain necessities, and a hairdresser is one of them, right?
Absolutely.
And so as a result of that, oftentimes people share their life story with you, I'm sure.
Constantly. I know everything, and your emotions are up and down all day long because people are telling you happy things, people are telling you sad things, people are telling you things in between. So, yeah.
Sure. And I'm sure you're able to recognize when there's changes going on in somebody's lives, almost.
Absolutely.
You know, and I know that there's a recent provision that for your licensing efforts through the state of Illinois, you now have to have mandatory training in domestic violence. Is that correct?
We have to have a 1-hour continuing education on domestic violence.
I think that's wonderful. I know a lot of people were criticizing it, but from the perspective of the knowledge that you get from people and what you have the ability to hear and share, it's so critical, isn't it?
It's very critical. And you know what? If we can help one person escape the abuse for them and their children, then we're doing our job.
That's right. It only takes one person that you need to make that change for. You know, I think that a lot of people, just like when they come in for a family law situation, they feel paralyzed going through a life crisis and they don't even know where to turn. So have you had experiences where people have started to share their story or start talking about situations?
Oh, absolutely. You know, you start out, the majority of people, I've been doing hair since 1981. So my clientele has been based, some of them I've started doing their hair in high school, and now I'm taking care of their kids.
Wow.
So
yeah.
I've gone through life things with them. I've gone through their proms. I've gone through their weddings.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone through them having kids. And you can start to see changes, happy and sad, of what can go on. I know their parents, their grandparents, and so on. So you can tell, you have to have a sense of people and see what's going on in their lives.
Absolutely. So now what is the obligation of someone in your career path? Do you have to share information? Do you have to turn them in? What is the state requiring of you?
They do not want you to do that because it could be dangerous.
Sure.
So what we have done is I'm connected with the Crisis Center and with a company in Beverly to leave pamphlets out. And we keep them in private places in the bathroom and then off to the side, kind of where the magazines are. And if somebody wants to keep things anonymous but still needs help, at least the pamphlets are there for them to take with them.
And they can pick it up. There'll be a phone number there, and then they can get the help that they need.
Yep.
And if you're verbally talking to somebody and they're sharing a story, you can also interject and say there might be some help for you. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, we tell them, hey, here's a pamphlet. And there's things that you can do, like I haven't gotten them yet, but there's little chapstick containers that you can put a number in.
Right.
Just slip them a chapstick.
Right. And then they look at it later and they think, maybe it's time to call.
Right.
And I think a lot of times people think that domestic violence is a particular group of people or a particular individual, but that's not true.
Nope, it doesn't matter what race, it doesn't matter how much you make.
That's right.
It can be a gay situation or heterosexual, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It affects all of us.
And it can be women abusing men, it can be men abusing women, and anybody can be a victim.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to happen always in the privacy just of the home situation. It can happen in relationships that you have that are outside of that as well, correct?
Yes, I can have them anywhere.
Absolutely. And sometimes I think that people just don't even know where to turn. So when they're feeling paralyzed, you can pick up the phone, you can call the number, you can reach out, and there are places such as the Crisis Center, correct?
Yes.
And they can go there. There's housing that can be provided if that's necessary. There's therapy there. There's assistance for your children. There's assistance to get orders of protection within the court system. And I understand, people say, well, an order of protection is just a piece of paper. And that's true. But on the flip side of it, it's your first step on your path of recovery. Don't you agree?
Oh, yeah. You have to make that step somewhere. And if you're not doing it for yourself, do it for your children because you don't want them to follow in the same path. And the very sad part of it is it usually takes somebody 3 times to leave before they're gone for good. So,
Right.
you've got the person that's trying to talk them, oh, I promise I'll never do it again. I'll be a better person.
Right.
Just remember, my favorite saying is spots on a leopard does not change.
That's true. And then there's that cycle of abuse. So then you go through that honeymoon period again. And then, and there's also, and I don't want to forget that we talk about this, it's not just physical abuse. It's also emotional abuse. It can be financial abuse. There are many forms of abuse that people don't consider as part of domestic.
Right. I mean, they can sit there and paralyze you monetarily, so you feel you don't have any money to run anywhere.
Correct. And it's important within that context of relationships, and especially in this day and age, is to make sure that people are being independent, to make sure that you have your own financial, your credit established, that you are working towards an objective to make sure that you have a way out if this situation is going to arise.
The majority of my stylists are young women, and I tell them all the time when they're, oh, I'm looking for a husband, I'm looking for a boyfriend. Make your own money.
Right.
Take care of yourself first, and then other relationships that are quality will follow.
Right.
Don't just look for somebody and give up your career, because that's when those types of things happen, because then if the other person feels like all the responsibility is on them, and then that's when the abuse can start.
Correct. And then I also think there's an element of shame and embarrassment that comes with it. So maybe there was a career person or whatever your situation may be, and you may find yourself sitting there and not knowing what to do because you're so embarrassed and think that no one's ever had this experience before, but that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And people are out there and they really can support you through that process. And it only takes initiating that first call.
It's the first call.
And don't wait 3 times. So if you're listening today and you have had an experience where you've been a victim, whether it be domestic violence in the sense of physical abuse, emotional abuse, or any type of financial abuse, make sure that you reach out. There's literature available. You can contact Kathy, you can contact our office, and we'll give you the referrals that you need to get moving forward. So Kathy, if they wanted to get a hold of you and say, I don't want to call a lawyer, but I'll call Kathy and stop by and pick up that literature, they can do it, right?
Yep.
Tell them how to get a hold of you.
Our number is 708-239-1111, and we are located at 7008 West 127th Street in Palos Heights.
Well, thank you. And like you said, one life changed is all that matters.
Thanks again.
Take care.
You too.